Welcome back. Today we're speaking with Gabriel Granatstein. He is the CEO of Canada Tire Inc. They have 100 employees, and he's led this company over the last 3 years to grow 23%. So, uh, a transformational leader and a really strong businessman. I'm really looking forward to the conversation here with you, Gabriel.
Thanks, Mark. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Well, welcome on the show. Take us back to the origin story of you getting into business, and maybe share a little bit about the backstory before you opened this phenomenal business, Canada Tire.
Sure. I never thought I would be here. This wasn't my plan. And if you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd be sitting here doing an interview with you about Canada Tire, I would have said you're crazy. Um, so I started my professional life in the military in Canada as a regular Army officer and did a bunch of contracts, worked overseas, and then I decided to go to law school. I practiced law for about a decade, and in the middle, I worked for Target in Canada and the U.S., and then went back to practicing law. And this business is actually not one that I started. It was a family business. It was my family's business. That's about 100 years old. I had just never been involved in it before, and about 9 years ago, my father called me, wanted some help and fast forward to now, and I'm the CEO and the owner of the business.
Gabriel, how big was the business when you were called from your father to come in and start helping?
We were in revenue a decent amount smaller than we are now.
Okay.
In people, I'd say we were a little bit smaller as well. This business is a capital intensive business, and so
Yeah.
it takes time and space to grow the business. It's not a software business that can grow exponentially year over year. And so building and growing takes time and it takes effort. And so my focus has been on, putting in systems and people help us grow effectively, which, in a transition on a generational business,
Yeah.
that's a challenge.
Well, and so the reason I asked the question is because the one of my last interviews, I spoke with there was a business owner that actually took the business over from his father as well, and he had run it for like decades. And generally, when a son comes into the business, there's people like, oh, some people that don't understand business are like, oh, you're taking the business over from your dad, but that's a tough transition to come in. You got existing culture, and then for you to take it and then to continue to grow it is a whole other thing, because most people come in and they'll go the other way, right? But to take it and grow up, that's actually a very, I would say, it would be a blessing to the father, but also a blessing to all of your customers and team members as well. So how was that for you coming in to an existing business that's been around for 100 years?
It was a challenge, but I'd say there's two types of transitions that I've seen. So you can have worked in your family business for your entire life, and from my experience, seeing that from the outside, you're often always seen as the boss's son or the boss's daughter, and
Yeah.
that can be challenging to lead the transition. I was fortunate in that I came into the business with my own experience, with military experience, with business experience, with a law
Mhm.
degree. And so I was fortunate to have some automatic credibility that was mine to lose. But anybody coming in, for better or for worse, with a professional designation, both internally and externally with your partners, it does help. Um, and then you just have to not screw it up. And to your point, I think the stat is that less than 1% of businesses survive to the fourth generation. It is a
Mm.
challenging transition from one to another. And most businesses, I think it's 96% don't make it to the third generation.
Wow. So, for you, what do you see for the next generation? Do you see that potentially moving on? I guess it really depends on the next generation if they want to take it on or not.
So maybe I'll say something earth shattering, Mark. I don't really believe in family businesses.
Mm. Okay, explain that.
So I I believe that a business needs to have somebody who's qualified, somebody who can do the job to lead the business. There's an immense responsibility to all of your stakeholders, your employees, your customers, your suppliers. And I do not believe that automatically somebody who's genetically qualified is professionally qualified. And
Mm,
to assume that my children are going to be the right person to lead the business is probably a reason why I think many businesses don't survive a generational transition. Now, that's not
mm,
to say that businesses can't be family held, and that the values of a
mm,
family business are important. There is a real place for privately owned businesses with long term views that make choices based on decades, not on quarters. But having a family member operating the business can lead to a lot of trouble. It doesn't always have to be a family member. In my family history, it had always been a family member. And I don't know that that was the right choice every generation.
hmm. That's really, really, that's good insight. Definitely different perspective there as well. I get it. You want to make sure that you have the most qualified person leading that company, right? I've seen
Yeah,
it before. Yeah, go ahead.
no, no, and I'd add to that to say, like, in a normal non-family business company, you don't have the same CEO for 30 years.
Mm,
And there's a reason why you have renewal and you have new people and new
yeah.
ideas. And I would say this, and I say this to my team, I might be the right person for Canada Tire today, but I have to keep proving to myself and to my team that in 5 years from now I'm the right person, because maybe I'm
Mm,
not. Maybe I'm the person who could take Canada Tire from here to here, but maybe I'm not who can take it there. And if I can't prove that I can do that, then I shouldn't be sitting in this seat.
yeah. And I like how you separated the person who's leading doesn't, I mean, just because you own the company doesn't mean you need to lead it. You can hire another
Right.
CEO and step aside and still be, the major shareholder in the business, but you don't need to be actually leading it as well. That's good perspective.
And I think if you ever think that you're the only person who can lead the business, that's probably the first step in a road to trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I think that's one of the main challenges with most entrepreneurs is the whole, self-employed. I'm the only one that can do it. And yeah, we all know that skill sets can be trained and somebody else can do it. It's just how are you training them? And what are the things that you're looking for? How are you developing that next person? People just can't step in and do exactly what you're doing, to be fair. You got to train them and develop them. And what I found is when you have a strong training program, I mean, anything is really trainable, or um, any position that you have is replaceable at the end of the day.
And I'd suggest that if not everybody is replaceable, then it's not a real business.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So let's keep going down that road. So, what do you think a business is? If you were to summarize or to define what a business is, how would you define it?
I'm gonna lean on my training as a lawyer, and maybe this influences how I think about it.
Yeah.
A corporation is a thing on its own that lives and breathes and needs to function. Um, it is its own person, and it has to be healthy and function. And those of us who come in and out of the business, even if it's a business that we own, are stewards of that business. But to be truly, um, you know, generational and last the test of time, it's got to function on its own. So you have to your
Mm,
point, have the systems in place. You have to have the people. But if you're running a business and the CEO gets hit by a bus and everything grinds to a halt the next day, I don't know that that's a real business.
yeah, it's like more of a job then, right?
Yeah,
Um,
or a term used in the old days was a lifestyle business, one that you would run to fund your own lifestyle and have a few employees. But I think also when you're dealing with external partners, lenders, financing, whatever, they don't want that what's referred to as key man risk. They want to know that that business functions alone by itself and that they're not
yeah.
dependent on just one person who shows up every day.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, the multiple goes up, the less it's dependent on the main owner or CEO of the company. I really like, and this is where when I read the E Myth by Michael Gerber, he talks about working on your business and in your business, and that I think that physical representation, the what you said there, it's its own person, like, or it's its own entity. Really, it's separate from the owner, and
Yeah.
so the more time you can spend on the outside, kind of building it, putting it together, and the systems, and the training, and you build the machine that actually spits out the service, and it spits out the customer service, and it spits out, you build the culture, you build all the training. Like, the more you can work on it like that, and I think the more you can look at your business like that from the outside, and like, where are the weaknesses, let's put it together. I think that's how most will say private equity firms that go in and purchase these companies that's how they're looking at them.
Yeah, and it's the only real way to look at your own weaknesses.
Hmm.
And also the truth about it is, like, the numbers don't lie. And so,
Yeah.
I was having this discussion with the other day of, somebody who was, not, I was pointing out I wasn't happy with a certain number, and there's all kinds of reasons for it. But at the end of the day, for me, my accountability is to the bottom line, and it doesn't matter what the excuses are. Like, my contribution to the company is evaluated by that P&L and balance sheet. And I can tell myself all the stories I want to, but if it's not there, it's not there.
Spoken like a true CEO. It's that the bottom line numbers. That's all. You tell me the number, and then I'll tell you the story. There's the sales manager that, he calls the salesperson in, and he says, okay, so let's agree on how many calls you're going to make, and then they agree. The salesperson agrees, comes back after a week, and the sales manager's like, how many calls did you make? And the salesperson's like, well, I was trying to call, and I got in traffic. I got, the head reception wouldn't let me through to the decision maker. All these, and then he's like, okay, well, this week you got to do it. And then same thing the following week. And he's like stops him halfway through the excuses. He's like, whoa, whoa. If you tell me the story, or if you tell me the number, I'll tell you what the story is. And
Mhm.
so this whole idea, the number is the only thing that matters. And I think having a leader ultimately that can think like that, it bleeds right through the company, where you have a company of accountability, which is a very attractive and not a normal business. I think a lot of times there's a lot of excuses in most businesses out there.
Yeah, and I would add that to have that accountability, you have to have a certain amount of transparency in the numbers. You have to be willing to
Mm.
share the numbers, and they have to be real. And that is a hard hurdle for a lot of people to get over, especially if you're the owner of a business. Um, if your personal life isn't truly separate from the business, you're probably not wanting to share what the bottom line is because that has an impact on it.
Yeah.
And so I think if you treat the business as truly separate from yourself, it's a lot easier to share real numbers with people.
Can you elaborate on, like, what kind of numbers would you recommend? You don't need to get in your own company, but like like in general, for companies, when you talk about transparency and sharing numbers, like, with frontline staff, how far do you go, and kind of what's the rhythm cadence in regards to what
Yeah.
numbers you share
So
and when?
great question and a great topic. I think the actual first thing you have to do is actually teach people what the numbers mean, because I think what I learned in doing this when I started this real transparency was, most people didn't know how to read a P&L or a balance sheet, and so there has to be education. There also has to be um, tailoring of the information to depending on the person who it's going to. And so I'll give an example. When I started, you know, people understood that maybe we made 25% gross margin on a tire. And in many people's heads, that meant that we actually made net 25% on every tire we sold. It took a long time and a lot of showing people how to do that. So starting at the lowest level, we literally, with my CFO, we built an image of a tire and we carved it into sections to show how
So
much
good. Woo! So good.
that tire goes to the bottom line. And where each tranche of that tire goes to operations, to salaries, to rent, to whatever. And that was, I think, really instructive for people. And then taking it to the other direction, on for my leadership team, they see the full P&L and balance sheet to the bottom line. My CFO has educated people on what does it mean and how to read that. But you have to, between sharing a full P&L and sharing an image of a tire sectioned off into parts and everything in between. So I really have to figure out how to tailor, but the education piece is really important because listen, I'm a lawyer, and I got an MBA, but it still took me a while to figure it out. And so I can't expect that everybody else would have the same depth of understanding that I do, when it's even hard for me sometimes.
Yeah, you underline a really important point for CEOs. I found like the best ones, they're able to simplify the complex. And as you grow in scale, what we found for us, we got, as we were scaling, we got up to 100 team members. All of a sudden, it's like what you could do with one or two people is not what you could do, with 100. And we were starting to get to a point where we were starting to get communication and accountability issues. And all of a sudden, when we simplified and we worked out our meeting cadences and our rhythms, things just moved. There was like a natural rhythm to the business, but it took me to really simplify it. And that's even now, like we're continuing to do it. I'm not sure if you've seen Elon Musk, I can't recall what it's called, but like the energy system where basically you see all these chords in phase one, and then phase two is like more simplified, and phase three was like this perfectly designed, more simplistic in approach. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, like that's actually what a business should actually work towards. You start kind of, complex, and you continue to simplify as you grow, but normally it goes the other way around. You kind of get one, you start, and then you kind of put on one piece, you fix a problem, and then another piece, and then all of a sudden 5 to 10 years later, it's like this big smorgasbord of like processes and systems instead of like simplification.
And I think that's why all of these bigger companies, including ones that I worked at, they go through these phases of massive growth, then they lay off thousands of people, and then they do it again. And they keep building and then stripping away and building, which is not healthy, for a business or for the people who are impacted by it.
What what would be your cadence? Is it just like an everyday thing to keep things simple, or is it like every quarter you go through and like, okay, what do we need to simplify from a process and system standpoint? How do you approach it?
Process and simplification generally.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it's just asking questions.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, you see something, um, and everybody, I think, feels, or should feel empowered to say, "Why are we doing that?" And I think when I started, when I would ask, all I did was ask why. Sometimes you get an answer, and sometimes you get, if you ask it enough times, you get, well, just because. And once you hit the just because, that's when you know that there's probably a better way to do it. So I wouldn't say we have any particular uniform way of doing things. I think we have a group of people who are empowered to make decisions and move quickly, sometimes too quickly, which can be a curse as well. But I'm fortunate in, I think, one of the good things about a family business, or I'd say a privately held business, is politics can be minimal. And like if everybody knows that everybody wants what's best for the company, then there's not a lot of ego in it for people. And people feel empowered to say, hey, why don't we do it a different way? We can save money this way, we can grow sales that way. And it's just asking those questions, I think, that gets you to a better result.
Yeah. No, that's good. You don't want to get into treadmill where you're like a government organization where just nothing moves, right? And when somebody starts working hard, you get the other saying, "Whoa, slow down there, buddy." Uh, Definitely don't want to be part of that. So, curious on meetings. There's Patrick Lencioni wrote a book, Death by Meeting, and he kind of
Yeah.
talks all about it. How regular are your meeting? Like, what kind of meetings are you in as a leader, and maybe your staff? Like, is there regular meeting cadence that you follow to keep everybody, in the loop and accountability and
Yeah,
communication
and I would
flowing?
say that we're. I think it depends on whether you're also in person or you're remote. We are mostly remote, other than the people who work in our 7 distribution centers. And so I have found that in if you're remote, you actually need a higher meeting frequency and cadence with people to ensure that you are talking to people. So, as an
Mhm.
example, I meet virtually with every single person in the company, at least either once a week, once a month, or once every other month. Sometimes for 5 minutes, but I want to see and hear from every single person.
Okay, so every second you have 100 team members, so you're meeting, you have, is that like a regular cadence that's pre-booked, or do you have an assistant going and pre-booking? And like, tell me how you manage that.
I don't have an assistant. I think I'm too anal for that. So I,
Okay.
I, I just I just manage my own calendar, and I have repeating invites with people. But like my leadership team, I have one-on-ones once a week, and then everybody else is either once a month or once every other month.
Okay.
I stack
What are
them
the
usually to one day, and it gives me a ton of information, and it also helps surface some issues that I wouldn't otherwise know about.
Oh, I love it. It's so good. I heard Elon Musk did that. He had like hundreds of, and he did 5 minutes, and he booked them like for like multiple days in a row. But he got, so for him, it was like, what, what do you do? What do you do here? And it was like, he wanted to know. So there wasn't, but I'm curious, in the 5 minutes that you're meeting with them, what are kind of your main kind of nuggets that you want to pull out from that conversation?
I mean, if my team is gonna watch this, I'll start usually with, "Hey, Mark, how's it going?" And then the person will say, "I'm good. How are you?" And then
Yeah.
I'll say, "No, Mark, how is it going?"
Yeah.
And then you'll get all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
and so I think there's a pretty commonly talked about interviewing technique about just leaving silence. So I think leaving silence helps. And I also think that as these meetings progress, you hear things from other people, and then you can use those things to bring up in other meetings. So if I'm hearing from one of my salespeople about an issue with giving credit to a customer, when I have my meeting with the credit team, I can say, "Oh, I heard you helped out Sebastien on this credit issue. How's that going?"
mm, so
And you get a lot of interesting information. Honestly, on half of them, it's really quick and you don't get much. But I think overall, I wouldn't stop doing them. And the truth is, like, my team, depends on me for their livelihoods and their family's livelihood, and they should have some access to me, and I should have some accountability to them.
it's so good. So when you do the 5 minutes, do you book 5 minutes back to back, or do you leave a little bit of lag time after?
Um, they're usually booked for 15, and then they just don't last that long usually.
Yeah, got it. Okay. I think that's so good. I mean, because this is where I think most leaders, especially as the company grows, it's easy to get kind of locked up in your penthouse corporate tower, right? You're right up on that, the 52nd floor, and you just never, you don't really talk to the people on the ground level. And that's actually something that I know in scaling up, and Vern Hurst, they talk quite a bit about that. Like, you need to get out and speak to your clients, but also speak to your team members at the front lines to hear what the real problems are, because especially when you start having multiple layers of management, is very easy, right,
Yeah.
for you to get.
And it can ebb and flow, and I've been guilty of the same thing too. I mean, you can get caught up in work, to your point earlier about working on the business, so working on things that are going to help grow the business, and then you can lose track of what's actually happening on the ground. And I think you need to have as a leader a good breadth of knowledge. And if you go deep into any one area, you're gonna lose on the others.
Oh, it's so good. I love how you broke down the numbers, simplifying it with simple pictures. That's so good. And then the meeting cadences is really good. And then open accountabilities. It's so, if you just implement a couple of these ideas, it can completely change the business when you're intentional on it. Are there any other things that you found that you've implemented in your business as you've grown and scaled? Like for me, as we did it, daily huddles, this is something like 15-minute daily huddles. That was like a game changer for me and our business on accountability and communication as we were starting to scale. And I took that from Vern Harnish scaling up. And but are there any things for you that you implement? You're like, wow, that was a game changer.
So maybe I could talk about things that I messed up. That's maybe more interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Wherever you want to
So
go with it.
I really liked the idea of daily huddles, and when I was in the military and when I worked at Target in the store level, we did daily huddles, and I thought that that was a really good way to get things across. Um, I think it depends on who and where. So we tried to do that for our sales team, the whole sales team, and the sentiment was that they felt that they were being infantilized, that we don't trust them to do the job. And why do I need to hear from them what they're going to do today or tomorrow when I'm going to
Like
hear?
micromanage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that was there was a lot of, I think, fair pushback on that. And I think it is a fine line between micromanaging people, which can imply that you don't trust them, whether it's true or not, and giving people the freedom to do their jobs and trust that they'll do them. So I think that's I think it I think to just implement something like that without thinking about who the audience is and what are you actually trying to convey. What's the point of the meeting? I think it's important to figure that out. So I think I didn't. I think I don't know that. Yeah, I think I would knowing what I know now, we would have gone about it differently.
Mhm.
And now we do a for one group of people we do a biweekly huddle, and for another we do one weekly. What are the other things that I've messed up? I think not paying enough attention to how you bring new people on.
Okay.
Um, I think that an onboarding process is really important, and I think sometimes or I'll speak for myself, I'm somebody who, when I've started a new job, I jump in, I call people, I'm pretty aggressive about getting to know people. Not everybody is the same way. And so if you expect somebody to go about starting a new job the way that you would do it, that might be a mistake. And so um, you want to spend a lot of time on onboarding because that can make or break somebody's career with you.
Yeah.
In terms of other things that I think that we do well, it's a hard to put it into an easy saying, but I think that when everybody understands where the company is going, how it's doing, and believes that everybody else is doing the best that they can, you get a better result.
Hmm.
And it's not one thing that will get you there. It's not um, you can't fake authenticity, you can't fake caring. You really have to show people that you care. And there are any number of ways to do that. Even when you have to let somebody go, the way in which you let somebody go impacts everybody else at the company
Mm.
and the way you talk about that person after they've left. And I think that is important. And what I found is that because I think it's clear that we make an effort when somebody is struggling to bring them on. And if it doesn't work out, we make an effort to treat them respectfully.
Yeah.
That influences how people go about their day-to-day job.
Mm. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. When I was younger, we used to, when we would let somebody go, we would tell them everything that they did wrong. Like, here's why we're letting you go. And now it's, we don't go over everything that you did wrong. There's already a coaching plan. We call it like a coaching plan instead of a PIP, right? Process improvement plan. But the now it's like it's a 5 minute, we really appreciate you. And, the company's going in another direction, or we're whatever it is, but we don't talk about all the negative. We let them go with their head held high, and we praise like the things that they did really well. So they walk out the door and they're not like, defeated. And so we try to keep it simple now. And that's definitely been more of a veteran move through the years of not getting it right. Many
And I
times as
think,
well.
my previous life as an employment lawyer, um, I dealt with cleaning up after people's messes when they would not.
Right. Yeah, you would have seen all kinds. Yeah.
And, you know, my general advice to people was if you treat them fairly and respectfully and follow the law, you're not going to get sued. It's going to cost you less and you won't need to call me. And I try to do that in my own company. And it extends to the point of, like, you know, nobody wants to get fired. Nobody wants to do a bad job. And you want that person who's leaving to leave with their head held high. And
Yeah.
so I say to people, unless they've done something really, offensive, like stolen or something like that, you tell me what the narrative is. We'll put the narrative out there. You want to say that you're leaving to pursue other opportunities? Happy to help. Whatever it is that you want that's going to make you leave with dignity, um, great. And I think it's the right thing to do. But knock on wood, in the last since I've been here, we've never been sued. But we also treat people the way we'd want to be treated. I mean, I when I was working at Target, Target shut down operating in Canada, and all 20,000 of us were fired on the same day. Um, to go through that experience, to know what it's like to have your job end and think about how am I going to pay rent tomorrow or how am I going to feed my family, it's really unpleasant. And so if you
Mm.
can, as an employer, if you can smooth the path for somebody, that's good for them, but it's also good for you.
That's I think that's wise counsel. Having them tell you what the narrative is, and definitely, there's no downside. I think to having them, held their, have their head held high when they move on as well.
No,
Because yeah, go ahead.
I think what I've seen is sometimes a manager wants other people to know that, they let this person go for
Yeah.
this reason. The truth is, everybody knows anyways. So you don't need to be loud about it. Everybody knows that it hasn't been working out with that person. You don't need to, hit them over the head with it. Let them say what they want to say. It's fine. Everybody knows anyways.
Well, that's coming from a super successful business owner and an ex employment lawyer as well. So I think that's
So super successful is a large term, and none of what I'm giving is legal advice.
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you just got some free non legal
Yeah,
advice. Yeah,
some free
yeah.
non-legal advice.
Yeah. No, that's great. Okay, so transitioning now to investing. So there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are out there listening, and they start to make money. And so I think it can be a little bit lonely out there in the sense that like, who do you go for counsel or advice, and curiosity is like, what are other entrepreneurs, what do they invest in when they start making money? Because there's like growing your business, investing in yourself, and then you have these extra dollars out there, and then there's so many choices as well. I mean, even for us, like, we have this real estate investment firm, and we have to go through 300 different deals. We have a process of filtering because there's so many of them out there to pick the one, multifamily deal, for example, for us. And so for entrepreneurs that don't have a process and they have the thousands of different options out there, how do you make decisions when it comes to investing? What advice would you have?
Sure. At the outset, I have no process at all, other than I have to find something that I find really interesting. If you ask my wife, I go down a lot of rabbit holes, and if I find something interesting, then I'm going to dig. So in my previous life as a lawyer, I got involved as a counsel to a couple of cannabis companies when cannabis was on the verge of becoming legalized in Canada, and I was super interested in the space, both as a veteran because veterans were using cannabis for PTSD treatment,
Mm,
and I believed in the legalization of cannabis, and so I started investing in cannabis companies privately. You know, that led to other they started developing psilocybin companies and ketamine treatment companies, and so I invested in those again because I was interested in it. I knew it. I wanted to know the people, and then as I moved into other areas of investing, it was always something that I know or that I had a relation to. So my personally and through Canada Tire, we're investors in a business called Wheel that does mobile installation and repair for cars. Why Wheel? Well, I know tires, I know cars. I have something to offer them other than just money. And so I think if you invest in the things that you know, you're more likely to do well. And if you know the people, But other than that, I think the actuarial studies show that if you just buy the Nasdaq or the S&P and leave your money there, you'll do quite well over time.
Yeah, very good. All right. Well, this has been very insightful conversation, Gabriel, especially with your background. I mean, I think you bring a really diverse insight into this. I have three last questions, and we're going to wrap it up. We got three rapid fire questions here. You ready?
Ready.
All right. So, as you could probably imagine, I referenced a few books. I love reading. I'm curious for you, which book has made the biggest impact in your career?
It's not a business book. It's How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It's an exploration of psychedelics by somebody who was not involved in psychedelics before.
How to Change Your Mind. Okay.
Yeah, it was a New York Times bestseller. It's not too obscure, but
Okay.
very interesting.
Very cool. All right. Second question, three words. People that know you best, how would they best describe you in three words?
I think that the first word would probably be I'm pretty intense,
Mm,
but I'm caring and somebody who they consider has high integrity.
very good. Having a leader that's intense and is a driver, I found like that's especially with growth, like you need somebody pushing that. So that totally makes sense from a personality standpoint in your position. Final question here, and then we're going to wrap up. Final advice would you have for the entrepreneurs? It can be about anything.
Um, I really think that it's just to set your bar high for yourself and for everybody else.
Yeah. Very cool. Love that. So, what's the best way for the listeners to find out a little bit more about your company, Canada Tire, there, and potentially if they who knows, from a business standpoint, they.
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. Anything like that.
Gabriel, really appreciate you coming on the show. I know your time's very valuable, and we learned a lot from the conversation today. So, really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Mark. It was a pleasure.
Right on. And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And moving forward, guys, one of the best ways to build your wealth is to grow your business and invest in real estate. I love you guys.